So today's topic is environmental audit. Before we start with the presentation, I'm thankful to the coordinators, Darshan sir, Mayank sir, and the principal of our institute, respected Diman sir, for giving me the opportunity to deliver the expert talk on environmental audit. So the content for today's presentation will be introduction, objectives of environmental audit, advantages of environmental audit, types of auditors or their schedule, list of basic instruments required, parameters for analysis, format for environmental audit report, and then references. So the most important aspect is the format of environmental audit report, wherein we look into various aspects of the company that we are going to audit for that particular period of time, 1 year. So before going to that particular portion, we will see the introduction of this environmental audit, why it is conducted, what are the objectives and the advantages, how you can become environmental auditor schedule 1 or schedule 2, and what are the basic implementation facility that are required along with these team members that are required, and what are the various parameters that you need to analyze as far as water, air, solid waste, wastewater is concerned. So before we start, let us have the introduction. So industrialization and okay, so before we start with this actual presentation, I would like to know that how many of you are having any idea related to environmental auditor scheme of Honorable High Court of Gujarat, and if you have any idea related to environmental audit, you can type your response in the chat window. If you have idea, you can simply type yes also. Yes. Okay, very good. GP Jamnagar. So actually this is EAS, this is termed as EAS, Environmental Audit Scheme, is the output of the verdict given by Honorable High Court of Gujarat as per its order dated 20 December. So it states that industries manufacturing specific products where qualified technical profession would become a link between the individual industry on one hand and the GPCB. GPCB is the governing body that look after the overall environment of the state. So in the legal terms, you can replace GPCB with State Pollution Control Board and other public authorities, as well as association of the industry on the other hand, with the added vital element of accountability and transparency. So whosoever is doing anything, right, when they are manufacturing any product, so that product, the details related to the manufacturing of this product, right, along with the pollution load and the other parameters. There are so many parameters that you need to include in this environmental audit report that we will discuss later on, but all these things you need to mention. So there are various sections available in the environmental audit report. Say for example, there will be some general section where the general details of the company, director's name, address, product details, number of electrical connections or DG set details, number of shift, what are the other details related to the company, right? uh, Say for example what the industry has implemented as far as cleaner production is concerned, related to this, all these things are falling under the general category, whereas there will be product details also there, wherein the details of product you need to mention. So uh, all these details will be in this report, right? So the accountability and transparency will be maintained when you do this environmental auditing. So basically, uh, industrialization and urbanization in Gujarat from last 3 to 4 decades has experienced revolutionary rapid industrial growth, and due to this, we had seen that so many at so many places the problem of environmental degradation, overall quality has been deteriorated, and due to this, there was a need to look into this matter urgently. So this environmental pollution can result into various irreversible changes, and so many people have suffered. So continuous vigilance was required in order to have these effective measures to damaging the climate or the ambient air quality, and due to this the disease were also spreaded, right? So for this, the continuous efforts were made by MOEF and CC, Forest and Environment Department, Government of Gujarat, and Gujarat Pollution Control Board, along with the industry, to protect and preserve the environment. So for the better sustainable development of environment and ecology, it was necessary, right, to develop this uh, concept of industries, or you can say development and environment, not development or environment, right? So there was a need to develop so many new technologies that you need to go with when you are continuously growing, continuously producing various products. So green technology, eco-friendly technologies were also required, and if someone has incorporated that, you need to mention it in this audit report, and that is how the transparency will be created. So the definition of environmental audit is, it is a pragmatic tool which addresses itself to help an industry or operation to verify compliance with environmental requirement, to evaluate the effectiveness of the environmental management system, to assess risk, and to identify the correct environmental hazards. So it is a management tool, you can say that, right, which addresses itself to help an industry or operation. So it means that whenever you are running any industry, you are producing something, you may be generating some effluent air emission, or you have a boiler. So process stack will be there, or a boiler stack will be there. In some cases both the stacks will be there. You may be discharging effluent, or you may be consuming lots of water, and you may be recycling or reusing some of this water. So all these aspects evaluated and has to be uh, has to be evaluated, as well as someone has to assess the effectiveness, what you are doing for saving the environment, or what kind of environmental management system you are having. Say for example, if you are having process tech, then what kind of air pollution control equipment you are using. If you have effluent generation, then what kind of wastewater treatment plant you are having, so that the treated effluent which you are discharging to the sink, right, will meet the ultimate discharge criteria defined by the statutory governing bodies, right? So all these kinds of systems are termed as EMS, environmental management system. So we, along with the other parameters, various aspects in environmental audit, we also check or evaluate the effectiveness of the environmental management system. Say for example, if you have installed air pollution control equipment, say for example cyclone separator, then what will be the efficiency of that cyclone separator? So for checking that, you need to take the sample from the stack after cyclone separator. So whatever air emission that are emitted to the atmosphere, right, you will take the sample of that emission with the standards given to the industry in the consent, right? So this is how you check this effectiveness of EMS system. You will also assess the risk, and you will identify and correct the environmental hazards if any are there. So that is the main aspect or the definition of environmental audit. There are so many definitions given at various places, so I have tried to um, include those also. So it is a management tool comprising of systematic, documented, periodic, and objective evaluation of how well the environmental management systems are performing, with the aim of, આપણે જે આગળ ડિસ્કસ કર્યું એ પ્રમાણે, waste prevention and reduction. So what kind of, apart from the conventional wastewater treatment approach, what kind of approach you have incorporated for waste minimization or waste prevention or waste reduction. Then you will also check these when you compare these standards with these values you have measured, right? That is known as assessing the compliance with regulatory requirement. Then facilitating control of environmental practice by company management, then placing environmental information in the public domain, right? All these things will be submitted to the governing body, in this case to the Gujarat Pollution Control Board. So uh, it is required to submit it to the GPCB at the end of the year. If you are doing audit for treatment, storage and disposal facility, or common treatment facility, common effluent treatment plant, right? Then the frequency will be different. And for any industry which are falling under Schedule 1 or Schedule 2, then you will submit that report at the end of the year. So now we will see what are the objectives of environmental audit. So environmental audit program which is designed and implemented properly can enhance industry's environmental performance. So you are comparing last year data, last year data with the current data, and how far you can go in terms of productivity, effectiveness of pollution control, right? All these things you will mention in this environmental audit report. And before you mention it, you will thoroughly check it. So you will analyze it. You will take samples also. So all these things at the end of the year will have the clear idea of the industry's environmental and evaluating the company at national and international level. This is also important. Then to suggest for using alternative energy for conservation of energy resources. So many areas are identified when you do this kind of auditing. So suggestions from the industries and the auditors, right? When they go in line in the same direction, they can find these solutions, alternative solutions for the betterment of the environment, and by this way the sustainability will be increased. By this way the image of the company also improve. Then evaluation of wastewater quality and determination of wastewater characteristics and their effect on the living system. So this is also we just have discussed. So we'll take samples of different streams at different stages, so that we will have the idea of the wastewater quality, the characteristics. Then classification of the category of solid waste and hazardous waste, their sources, quantities and characteristics. So we will have better idea of that company's solid waste or hazardous waste generation rate. And when you know the generation rates, you can model it with the production also. And in any case, if the waste generation is higher and production waste is within the limit, you can always catch the industries if they are doing some mischief. Say for example, if they are producing more amount of product than they are allowed to, right? So these are all these interlinked aspects that the auditor has to look in when they need to do this auditing, right? Then objectives of EA. Next slide. Introduction and implementation of time-saving technology in production, maintenance of labor and occupational health and medicine, proper documentation of environmental compliance status to help in minimizing waste through modern cleaner technologies. Then regular environmental auditing once in a year will help in producing environmentally educated and technically sound personnel, right? So these are some of these objectives of environmental audit. Then now we will discuss the advantages of EA environmental audit. So it will have this environmental management plan. Then you will assess the environmental input and risk. Then you will have the identification of the areas where you have uh, strength and weakness for improvement, evaluation of pollution control, how or what are the current status of your pollution control strategies and verification of compliance with the laws, then assuring the safety of plant, environment, and human beings. So when you are producing something with the help of humans, right, the safety of humans are the prime priority. So how safe your plant is, that also you will check by assessing the risk involved in the process. Then advantages of EA. Next slide. Enhancement of loss prevention, manpower development and marketing. So budgeting of pollution control, waste prevention, reduction, recycling and reuse. This is also important, providing an opportunity for management to give credit for good environmental performance as a whole. Environment audit plays an important role in minimizing the environmental problem locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. So these are the various advantages of environmental audit. Then what are the various types of audit? Right. So apart from environmental audit, you may have heard various other kinds of audit. Say for example, uh, compliance audit or issues audit, health and safety audit, site audit, corporate audit, due diligence audit, activity and or operational audit, product or life cycle audit, right? So these different type of audit are the partial audits, which distinguish them from the more specific environmental audit, and in particular the periodic audit is a crucial in environmental management system. So when you talk about compliance audit, so it is the most common type of audit that consists of checks against environmental legislation and company policy. In issues audit, it is an evaluation of how companies' activities relate to an environmental issue, global pollution or evaluation of a specific issue, building or supplies. And in health and safety audit, you assess the risk and contingency planning, sometimes integrated with environmental auditing because of the interconnection of the impact of industrial processes and various hazards that are involved in the industry on the personnel, the persons who are working in the industry. So sometimes you may have some acidic fumes or fugitive emissions, or some due to presence of some toxic substances, right, that gives the hazard to the surrounding, that have some negative impact on the humans that are working there. Then site audit, an audit of a particular site to examine actual or potential environmental problems. Then corporate audit is the audit of the whole company and its policy, structure, procedure and practices. Due diligence audit is the assessment of potential environmental, financial risk and liabilities carried out before a company merger or site acquisition. Right, when the one company is uh, one company is going to be merged with the another one, or when you are choosing one site that is a contaminated site and that requires any remediation, so then the cost of remediation has to be involved and the property value will be deteriorated. So at that time, this kind of audit is also required. Then activity and or operational audit, then an assessment of activities that may cross company department or units, energy or waste management, you can say. Then product or life cycle audit, that is also termed as cradle to grave assessment, right? So it is the analysis of an environmental impact of a product throughout all stages of its design, production, use, disposal, including its reuse and recycling. Right, so that is known as product or life cycle audit. Sometimes it is also termed as cradle to grave assessment. Right. Then, based on this kind of auditors or the schedule of industries, we have schedule 1 auditors and schedule 2 auditors. So you can find the recognize Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 auditors of the state by visiting the website of GPCB. Then you will have the list of private schedule auditors and the government Schedule 1 auditors. So the reputed institutes, R&D centers and government colleges falls under Schedule 1 auditor, whereas the consultants and private firms, if you wish to go for uh, go for auditing, then they need to take permission and they will become later on after the completion of that compliance required by the government. Schedule 2. So for this, the team of 4 persons are required. One is environmental engineer, then chemical engineer, microbiologist, and chemist. Right. So they can form one team, and they can audit up to 15 industries as per the uh, as per the assignment of these industries by the pollution control board randomly, right? Then schedule 1 auditors are mainly the government institutes or reputed institutes and the R&D centers, so they also need to follow the same criteria for doing the audit, but they will audit the schedule 1 industries only. So schedule 1 auditor will visit the schedule 1 companies only, whereas schedule 2 auditors has to visit schedule 2 companies only. So based on these different products and their capacity and the environmental pollution, uh, the industries are classified as schedule 1 and schedule 2 companies. So these are the list of various products that are falling under schedule 1. So you can if see that, and the major industries who are having uh, relatively more pollution potential are falling under schedule 1 companies, whereas the small companies are under schedule 2 companies. So the common effluent treatment facilities, treatment storage and disposal facilities, fertilizer plants, sugar industries, power plants, so all these petrochemical complexes, right? All these companies falls under schedule 1, whereas the smaller industries which are having this kind of products, as you can see on this slide, that falls under schedule 2 companies, right? So then now we'll see if you wish to establish the schedule 1 or schedule 2 audit company, right? Uh, Schedule 1 auditors will be government recognized bodies only. So private colleges, self-finance colleges, or the government colleges and the R&D centers can go for this kind of laboratories, whereas the private firms uh, who are working as an environmental consultant, they can go for Schedule 2 auditors, right? Based on the list of basic laboratory facilities, if they are having, then they can go for this. So these are the a list of these laboratory instruments that are required. So basic facilities that are as per the list. If you have, then you can go for that. Then in addition to this list, if you have DO meter or AA, SGC, HPLC, TOC, VOC, right, then it is desired to that list. And these are the parameters you need to conduct when you do environmental auditing. So these are the various parameters. Some of these parameters will be done with the help of these instruments, whereas the advanced parameters require these instruments. So you will likewise carry out the analysis. Hazardous waste parameters also you need to determine. Then ambient analysis. So you will do air sampling, ambient air sampling, and stack monitoring with the help of variable dust sampler, or you can say RSPM, NPM 2.5 sampler, whereas the in ambient this SO2 and NOx is measured, as well as in stack also you will measure various pollutants that are emitted from the stack of industries, process stack and boiler stack, and that is conducted with the help of stack monitoring kit. So the first slide of this presentation was about that instruments that are required for conducting stack monitoring. Then in process tank or vent or flue gas stack, you will measure PM, SO2, NOx, chlorine, HCl, ammonia, and the other gases. So these are all the parameters that you need to measure. Now we'll go with the format of EIR, which is important. So principal areas of any environmental audit report will be this only, and the format is given by GPCB. So you need to stick to the format.
बस
Then
बस
you can mention by
बस
by by auditing. So in general aspect we have already discussed. It is regarding
So
the
wait. No disturbance in voice. Is it audible to everyone now? Yes, sir, please continue.
Yes, yes. Now continue.
so principal areas of environmental audit report are general section, then product detail, water, air, hazardous solid waste, site plan, resource recovery, health, accidents and safety measures, remedial measures, water says name and sign of industrial personnel, and consultant engage with team members of audit team. So whosoever does this or carry out this audit, their name and sign along with the designation is required. Apart from that, from company side also, the personnel who are responsible, right, their sign is required at the end. So before we start with this environmental audit report, there are three kinds of things that you need to do when you go for environmental audit. So pre-audit activity, on-site activity, and post-audit activity. So in this pre-audit activity or pre-visit activity, what you are going to do is shown in this flow diagram. So you select and schedule the facility audit, you select team members, you confirm their availability, you plan the audit, you define the scope, right? You prioritize the topics, whatever information you require for the for your knowledge, right? That background information you will gather, right? Then you also prepare the pre-audit questionnaire. You in most of the cases you are coming, right? So they will be also ready to answer you to get the need if you have any, right? So these kind of activities are considered under pre-audit activity or pre-visit activity, right? Audit or key activities at site are understand the management system. You will have the brief interaction with these company personnel. You will assess the strength and weakness, internal risk, internal controls. You gather the evidences, right? Then you evaluate your things. You do this auditing there. You check the documents required. You collect these documents. You take the samples. You do the monitoring, air, ambient, stack monitoring, right? Your findings you note down. There will be an exit meeting, and in post audit activity you prepare the draft report, right? You check these compliances, the limits the industry is having for, say for example, discharging, what is the water consumption, right? All these things you need to check, and you will compare it with the uh, actual one, and you, by doing this you will issue the final report, right? Then action plan, what kind of corrective measures that are required, all these things you will mention in the post audit report, right? So that is what is mentioned in these slides. So we will skip these slides. Then the sections. So in general section, the details related to industries are there. So we generally mention all these details, the number of DG set and their capacity, residential address and name of all these directors and partners, numbers of shift and timings the industry is having, right? Whether the industry has obtained any ISO certification, then the details thereof. In some cases, the industry has adopted the proactive approach, that is cleaner production or cleaner technology or clean development mechanism. If any details thereof is there, then you can mention it here also, so it will communicate the image of industry to the reader of that audit report. Number of workers, male female, if they are, right, then the details thereof. So all these details related to company general details are under this section. Then how many days the production activities were in operation, that also is required, which is very much essential. Then in second section, product details, section B is there. So what are the different products the industry manufactures, and what is the capacity, yield, purity, per day, right? That you need to mention the name of all byproduct and its quantity per day, date of commencement of production for each product, whether the production is as per the concerned quantity or not. That also you need to, being an auditor, mention here all raw materials required per kg of product. So all these details along with the process flow diagram, the description of that particular product, all these products, number of batches, how much time is required for the completion of each batch, right? If the process is batch process, if the process is continuous one, then the details thereof, then the list of unit operation and processes with all chemical reactions along with the time required, right? Then mass balance, water balance, right? Waste water generation, uh, quantity, the places from where the wastewater is generated, right? All these things are required. Then in next section, this is very much important section. Here the quantity of water consumed per day as well as per ton of product manufactured is required. Water balance diagram over the last 3 years is required. So in uh, water balance diagram is the diagram which shows the consumption of water at various places. So you need to cross check this quantity and how much water is lost, right? All these things you need to show, and there should be balance, right, based on the water consumption that you are mentioning in your report while you are producing any product, right? So all these things has to be in line with the sections which are mentioned here. So when you detail or when you go thoroughly into this process aspect, right, the you can have better insight industry what they are doing, right? So apart from this water balance diagram, you will also look into the effluent treatment plant, the capacity, the size, then name of each unit, how the effluent is treated, what is the characteristics of untreated effluent, and what is the characteristics of final effluent. Apart from that, you will also take the stage samples, and you will measure these gradual how the effluent is treated stage wise, right? So due to this you will have better insight. You will also note down this reading of electricity consumption at the effluent treatment plant, whether the industry has installed separate energy meter or not. So these all things are the indirect indicators of how the effluent is treated and how much electricity is consumed for this conveyance and treatment of the effluent, right? And from that also, while comparing different light bills of individual months, you will be able to know that if the quantity of wastewater is this much and the light bill was this much, then this much electricity was consumed. And during this month, the effluent generation was higher. Then what are the reasons? And if any industry has shown that in that month the production was less but the generation was higher, then you can easily catch, or you can perhaps ask the industry for the reason of why this happened, right? So all these aspects the auditor has to look into when that auditor is auditing any company, be it schedule 1 or schedule 2. Then flow meters, if they are provided at inlet and outlet, then all that also will give you the exact amount of effluent that the company has treated or discharged, and that has to be in line with the production. So these are all these areas where someone can catch the industry if they have done any kind of mischief, right? So they cannot hide any data, and you being an auditor, recognized auditor, you need to submit the actual data only. So if the company is giving you false data, then there are so many ways through which you can get that industry, right? So this is the overall this is the main objective of that audit, right? So that is the reason why we conduct audit. So the transparency that is the part of the environmental audit is maintained, right? Then open area available for the disposal of effluent, if it is there, then the details thereof, total pollution load and the quality of sewage, quantity of sewage generated, that also is mentioned in this report, whether the quality of treated effluent meets the specified norms. So if it is meeting the discharge limits given by the given in the consent to the industry under Water Act, then if it is maintained, right, then if it is meeting these norms, then you can mention it. If it is not meeting the norms, then you can write the deviation and the reasons thereof. So then the next is water part, continuous 9 point. If you can see, improvement in effluent quality means last year what was the effluent quality, and in and presently what is in this year, what is the quality, right? So if you check these things and you compare it, and if it is the quality is deteriorating, then you will come to know the reasons, or how well your effluent management system, environmental management system, EMS system, right, is performing. That also you can check. And if it is improving, then you can also explore the ways through which the existing facility can further improve the quality of effluent. Even you can explore the possibilities of reusing and recycling the effluent, so that your water consumption or water demand will be decreased, right, and you will take care of the fresh water. So makeup quantity of fresh water will be reduced when you do this recycle and reuse. So that is also important. Retrofitting undertaken to improve the performance of ETP. If it is the case, then you can mention it. If previously you were not reusing or recycling the effluent, but from this year you have installed some of these facilities, say for example, if you have installed a reverse osmosis or multiple effect evaporations, then the details thereof you can mention. Then what are the major problems you have encountered during the operation of the effluent treatment facility, then you can also show them how you have solved them. That also you can mention. Then the operator who is looking after your effluent treatment plant, or the employees, their qualification, even their salary also, right, all these things are also required, and the current consent status of the industry under Water Act, that you need to mention. So કેટલી years સુધી છે, that also you need to write down. Similarly for the air also, air act માં consent to status શું છે, that also you need to mention. Then in the air section you will mention number of flue gas stack, their height from ground level, their nature and consumption of fuel. Sometimes you are using coal and the coal is having higher sulfur content, then the problem of uh, oxide of sulfur will be there in the stack, right? So that you need sulfur dioxide will be there in the stack, so uh, you need to get rid of that problem. Then you can change your fuel, say for example, right? So this will have the improvement in emission quality from the previous environmental audit based on the performance evaluation or the air pollution control management, right? So by changing the fuel, you are incorporating the CP practice, cleaner production practice at the company, right? So then the detail pertaining to the stack monitoring facilities, how many numbers of process stacks are there, right? What is the how much is the height of the from the ground level, right? What are the expected pollutants in the stack, and what is the concentration of that emitted gas from the stack of that industry. So you will put at various places at least three ambient stations, right? So in the next slides we will see how you can do this kind of things, and you will check this ambient quality also. You will even measure the quality of ambient air outside the industry also, so that you can have the baseline, right? And the quality, if it is bad, good or worst, then you can you can cross check it with the health of these personnel who are working at your company, and that is the reason why the periodic medical checkup of the employees is required. So the details thereof will also be mentioned in the next sections that we will discuss. Medical facilities, if you have appointed any full-time doctor or not, and in case of emergency, if you have any tie-up with these hospitals, right, or what is the nearby hospital, likewise. So then next is the major problem encountered during operation of control devices. So you may have various dust collection devices, say for example, cyclone separator or electrostatic precipitator, venturi scrubber, right? Then when you do this monitoring at the stack, you need to ensure certain things. Say for example, if you can see this figure, right? So the merging duct is there, and there is a place where platform is there from where you will take the sample. So the sampling porthole should be greater than 8 times the diameter of the downstream from any merging flow, and 2 times the diameter from upstream exit point, right? So that you will have these fully developed flow, and the results you will mention, that will be uh, accurate. And the minimum height should be 30 meters for any stack. Similarly, SO2 emission basis also you can check the height of the stack, right? So there is one equation: stack height is equal to 14 into q raised to 0.3, where q is your SO2 emission rate in kg per hour, right? So that way also you can check. Even you can check on PM emission basis also, where the stack height, if it is measured in meter, then h is equal to 74 into q raised to 0.27, where q is the PM emission ton per hour. So you also need to see that no stack height less than 30 meters should be allowed in any plant, right, as per the Air Act 1981. And before you go with this monitoring of the stack, you need to select this pitot tube thimble based on the condition of that stack, right, temperature of the stack, the material construction of the thimble is there, right? So then you will measure the thimble weight before and after this monitoring, and you will have the idea of that PM, particular matter concentration, by substituting these values, right? Similarly, you will also put in the impinger tubes, sampling tubes, various absorbing solvents for various gaseous pollutants, right? So thimble material will range from cellulose to aluminum based on the temperature of the stack, and the thimble weight, thimble conditioning is done by oven drying, desiccating, right? So that is the standard procedure. And when you do this sampling of particulate matter in the stack, you have to be very much careful, because if the stack velocity is not measured properly, then the rate at which you are doing the sampling, right? So there is a nozzle which you are inserting into the stack, and diameter of that nozzle and the rate at which you are pumping the gases from that nozzle, right, there will be certain velocity in the nozzle, and that velocity should be same as that of the stack. If that is not the case, then the rate of sampling will differ, right? So say for example, if it is same the case with the middle stack, right, 6 meter per second is the velocity, and 6 meter per second is the velocity inside the stack as well as in the nozzle, then the gases which you are sampling will be done with the help of that isokinetic sampling, that is known as isokinetic sampling. So if your rate is higher, then higher amount of particulate matter will be sampled than that of the actual concentration within the stack, the case with first stack, where 6 meter per second is the stack velocity and the sampling rate is 8 meter per second. Whereas if the more concentration of the particular matter is there within this stack, and if you are sampling at a lower velocity, right, at that particular time, less amount of particulate matter will enter to your thimble, and that will give you less amount of void at the weight at the end of this monitoring. So this should not happen. So for that purpose, you need to first measure the stack velocity with the help of pitot tube, and then you will select this size of nozzle, right, for the sampling of the gases. So this is the particulate sampling train, and these are the impinger tubes we talked about, right? So temperature is measured with the help of thermocouple, and uh, pitot tube is there for measurement of this stack velocity, and then you will insert the probe having the thimble with that, and you will measure the you will do this sampling for 20-30 minutes, and after certain period of time, uh, when ample amount of gases are dissolved in the respective absorbing liquids in the impinger, you will remove it and you will do this analysis when you go to laboratory. So these are the national ambient air quality standards that the industry need to follow, right? And the pollutants that are there in the air that can be measured using different methods that are mentioned in the methods of measurement, right? So for that purpose, you need to go with various instruments for measurement of various pollutants. So these are the 12 major parameters that you may need to measure. Then the analytical method for the various pollutants in the stack. Okay. હવે સંભળાય છે અવાજ? Okay. These are the various absorbing media that you need to use for measuring the pollutant. Then how the high volume, how this, when you put this ambient station for measurement of various pollutants in the air, right? So if you can see this figure, then you will be able to know that the blue molecule is if the air, then air will pass through the filter and will be exhausted from the machine, whereas the which are having large diameter, then which are having the large diameters, right, more than 10 micron, will get caught in this movement, zigzag movements, right? So it will get removed, whereas the particulate matter which we wish to measure, that is PM10, so that particles which are having less than 10 micron size will pass through this movement but will get retained over the filter paper. So we first measure the weight of filter, then we will put that filter paper on this machine, and we will turn on the machine, we will check the flow, and we will measure the time at the start of the machine, and when we stop that machine after 24 hours, say for example, and in these 24 hours how much air has been sampled, that you will get from that flow sensor reading, and you will take out the filter medium and you will weight that filter medium, and there will be a marginal increase based on the concentration of particulate PM10 dust particles in the surrounding, right, there will be increase in this filter paper weight, and from that you will come to know the concentration of that particulate matter in that particular surrounding using this high volume sampler, right. So this is how you will measure this particulate matter, suspended particulate matter, right. So SPM is measured like this way. So this is termed as respirable dust sampler, right. Similar kind of machine is there which will sample even the finest particles that are having a very high health risk to us, which is having even less size, that is known as PM 2.5 sampler. So that is having slight modification and will capture the 2.5 particles or even less size. So that is known as PM 2.5. And this is the impinger tube which you use for sampling various gases found in the ambient. બરાબર છે એટલે આ એની ટ્યુબ છે. Then criteria for siting of station. So when you where you need to put this high volume sampler. So height of the inlet must be 3 to 10 meter above the ground. The sampler must be more than 20 meter from trees. Distance of the sampler to any airflow obstacles building must be more than 2 times the height of the obstacle above the sampler, whenever. So all these kind of things you need to check before you place this high volume sampler. Apart from that, there should be power supply also, where because this machine requires electricity. So next section is hazardous waste section. The quantity, source and composition of hazardous waste, solid waste from each process, and the source over the last 3 years, right, that you need to mention. What is the consent quantity given to you, and if it is maintained or not, within limit or not, that you need to put the details thereof. Then the method of storage, treatment and disposal of hazardous solid waste. The details should include the area of storage, disposal, whether storage and disposal system is covered and made impervious, right, the quantity of hazardous waste sent to the total treatment, TSDF means treatment, storage and disposal facility. You will also indicate the quantity of hazardous or solid waste, and manifest જે હશે that also you need to put the details thereof, right. So all these things are required, and if you have any plan to reduce the hazardous waste generation or its recycling, then you need to put the details thereof. Then the site plan showing the location of effluent treatment plant, final point of disposal of effluent, sampling point, drainage line, stacks, solid waste storage, disposal area, even green belt details. If it is present in your company, then the details thereof, right. So that is regarding the site plan. Then the next point is resource recovery. So in resource recovery, the details regarding resource recovery, including the treated effluent for recycle or reuse of environmental pollution control system, including the effluent treatment plant. So sometimes you may be recovering certain things, right? Say for example, some heavy metals are there in the effluent, and you are recovering it by precipitating it from the effluent, right? So if that is there in your industry, then you need to mention it. Even you may have some cleaner production technologies adoption. So by doing so, you are manufacturing certain products from manufacturing process itself. Then the details thereof are required. Then the health section. So health section is also important. We all know that health is wealth. So whosoever are working in your company, and if the environment is hazardous one, then the health of the employees will be affected, and that is not only bad for the employees, but it is also bad for the companies also. Not only from the point of view that they will not come and you will save the money by not giving them the pay, but when they don't come, it will badly affect the production, right? And you may not achieve the production production capacity you wish to achieve, right? So your targets will not be achieved, and if the ill health effects are seen on the workers, then they may switch over to the place where less hazardous systems are there or less hazards are involved. So accidents, safety are the important aspects, right? The one which is having no accident is a good company. It is obvious for various reasons, right? So what kind of care the industry is taking for the safety of the persons who are working, right? Along with the periodic medical checkup done by the industry with the help of any factory medical officer, if appointed full time or part time, the details thereof is required. So in this section, the pre-employment and periodic medical examination facility, if the industry is having, then the details thereof are required, right? How many workers are there? So how many workers are tested, right? And they are tested with what kind of this facilities, right? Say for example, you may have dispensary or you may have ambulance, you may have hospital also, or you may have first aid box. So the details of medical facility available with you that you need to check. Even the basic sanitary facilities like water closets, urinal, bathrooms are provided, and whether they are satisfactory or not, that also you need to mention here. What are the different hazards involved, right? That also you need to mention here. And the accidents details, right? And the remedial measures, if any are there, then that also you need to mention. As far as the safety measures are there, right? What is the housekeeping, dustiness, lighting and ventilation when you visited the company, right? So that you need to tick, you need to give the response, submit the response, as well as the personal protective equipment that are given to the employees. Say for example, goggles, gloves, gumboot, helmet, right? Earplug or face mask or something like that. So based on the type of work the personnel are involved with, they should be given these protective measures or the personal protective equipments so that the risk to their lives will be reduced, and if anything goes wrong they will be saved. Say for example, if someone is handling that acid and he has that protective measure with him, then it will take care of that uh, accidental splash of that acid, right? And the burning will be avoided. So these kind of things you need to mention the details thereof. And the uh, utilization level also you need to mention, because in some companies all the things are there but the utilization level is not there. So that should not be the case with this personal protective equipment. And the details of the facilities for disaster management or gas leakage, if that is the case applicable, then the details should be there. Whether on-site, off-site emergency plan is prepared and implemented, then the details thereof. Then any occupational hazards records are maintained, then that also need to mention. Then preventive measures adopted and to minimize occupational hazards, if any are there, then that also the details thereof you need to mention. So environmental audit report covers all these aspects, various aspects under various sections. So all these details related to industry uh, will be covered. Then remedial measures. So the details of sources, monitoring and measures taken for control of noise pollution in and around the industrial premise. That is important. So there is a limit for noise, right? And if some areas are noisy and if workers are working there, then when they are subjected to this noise for a long period of time in their entire working life, then there are substantial ill health effects in terms of their hearing abilities and the other aspects related to noise pollution, right? So you need to curb this noise pollution by implementing various methods first. And if after implementing that it is not possible to go beyond certain limit, then the one who is working there has to be provided with this personal protective equipment, earplug or earmuffs, right? So that is important aspect. Similarly, there may be some fugitive emission or odor nuisance, and that has to be prevented. So you may have visited if Ankleshwar Panoli Jagadia, even you have not entered to that GIDC, while going through the highway, you may have seen some fragrance spray mist generators, right? That emits the uh, that curbs the odorous compound smell or that emits fragrance, so that the odor nuisance in and around the industrial premise can be avoided. Barabar. So then the complaints under the Water Act, Air Act and the EP Act is covered under the remedial measure of section 3. So someone may have filed complaint against you that you may have discharged something, the effluent, untreated effluent, or if anything related to that EPA Act or Air Act or Water Act, then these complaints also you need to mention here, being an auditor. And compliance report with respect to all conditions of NOC or consent, that also you will mention here that it is complied. If incident of spillage, leakage and any remedial measure if you have taken thereof, then the details thereof are required. Then PLI policy status also is required. Then water cess payment details are required. Then the name and address of the consultant engaged by the company or industry, the details thereof are required. And at the last, in the section M, section A, B subsections, you will have the name and sign of that employee industry side responsible for that industry and the environment, right? Their name and sign is there, that they are declaring that the information submitted by them are correct and they are responsible for any lapse regarding the incorrect or incomplete information. Similarly, the members of audit team who have analyzed their samples, taken their samples, audited that company for the same is the details thereof are there. So these are the references I have used for preparing this slide. So you can, if you wish to go in detail, you can refer these references also. So once again, I'm thankful for listening to me very patiently. If you have any questions, you can type the questions in the chat window so that we can have if I will be able to answer your queries, then I will be very much happy. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Mihir sir, for your wonderful and informative